Welcome everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Lucy Findlay and I'm the Managing Director of the Social Enterprise Mark. Welcome to this very exciting day, Silver Mark launch. We're recording today, so if you don't want to be recorded, obviously don't say anything. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and carry on as we had thought we would. The order for today is going to be, I'll just give a little bit of a brief introduction. We'll hear from our guest speaker, Nigel Kershaw, and I'll give a little bit of an overview. We'll also hear from our new Silver Mark holders about their experience and what they do, because that's very exciting. Very long-standing social enterprises with a lot of social impact, which came out in our assessment. And then we will open it up to questions and to we'll give you some indications of what it is that will happen following on from here. But you will have a chance to ask some questions. It will finish at 11, but we will allow people some time if they need it to carry on and have questions a bit beyond the 11 o'clock time. So if you want to stay on and chat to anyone, by all means do. So it's really great to see so many people here. The reason we had this virtually was because it's quite hard to get everybody together. The Social Enterprise Mark is international, and we were keen to get at least national representation as part of our launch. So this was the most inclusive way of doing it. So I know everyone was fed up with lockdown, and we do like to have a big party at the Social Enterprise Mark, but this will have to be your early morning party. But welcome everybody from all different parts of the UK. It's really great to see you all. So this morning, we're really pleased to have a guest speaker who's been a long friend of the Social Enterprise Mark, Nigel Kershaw. Nigel and I go back nearly 20 years, I was calculating it earlier on this morning. So we both have been in the social enterprise world and seen a lot and experienced a lot over the years. Nigel has many different hats. He is chair of Big Issue Group, but he's also co-founder of Big Issue Invest Trust, of which some of you may have received funds, social finance, which I remember being set up as well, because there was a real gap in the market. It's doing great stuff now. And also Big Exchange, which will help you in having more ethical pensions, but he can tell you more about that. I've also over lockdown I joined the Big Issue family, and I've just become the chair of the Big Issue Invest Trust. So it's really nice to have that link across to the work of the Big Issue, and obviously the very important and high profile work that they do. So I'll hand over to Nigel now for his 10 minutes or so of input.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, I was just thinking of the 20 years and the way social enterprises have longevity. And I was also reflecting that 10 years ago, I spoke at the Selby Trust for a Mark event there. And I see Selby's got the Silver Mark today. So congratulations to you. It was a bit of a wrench at being an Arsenal supporter, having to go up. So, it's mixed memories, I have to say, but congratulations to you. Anyway, so and it was something Lucy wrote that made me think about what to rant about today, and that really was about longevity and sustainability. Sustainability in the old, in an older extent, not about climate. Obviously, climate is so important to us and affects all our lives, or climate change is and will. But about the longevity of social enterprises, that people who really who put what they're doing so at the core of what they do, that all those stats that come out previously about the difference between the private sector and social enterprise, although we are private sector, is about survival, about growth, about long term. And I just think that's something that is often not celebrated, and that is that we're there day after day after day for and changing, I think, the face of business. It's really interesting. Behind me is the shop in Shoreditch that we did, and yesterday I was, if I could go way back to 91 and the launch of the Big Issue, I was talking about the Body Shop, and Gordon Roddick of the Body Shop was the co-founder. So the Big Issue grew out of that, a multinational listed company that saw that that business could be done in a different way, and change, and a need to change the face of the high street. And so I think that for us was was that whole idea that this is, we can do it as business. We don't have to do it as charity. And although many of you are charities, but with trading arms, that actually business and profit is a good thing. The fact that we mug ourselves on the way to the bank with our profits and reinvest it in our mission is neither here nor there. It's what we called way back then the social dividend. And actually, can I just tell you a story? This is a ranty story. In 1996, we tried, 94, I think, before, we bought our first building. And the bank said to us, "Did you make any money?" And we said, "Well, no, we didn't." "Did you make any money last year?" Said, "No, we didn't." But we said, "We're very cash rich." And then they said, "Well, we're not going to lend you money," even though we had a 14% profit on a single magazine. They wouldn't give us, because we didn't have any money. And we started to think about it and said, why didn't we make a profit? And that's because we'd reinvest it back in our mission. And they never got that. And I remember sitting with the bank and the lawyers and all the rest of them when they came back, and we split out and said, look, this is the profit we make, and this is what we decide that we're going to give to our mission to reinvest in our vendors and what we're doing. And we called it the social dividend. And I remember just saying to them, we said, look, if you saw a publication, Lucy, if I'm wandering, you've got to tell me, because I wander, right? If you went down the road, and I don't know what made me think of it other than I love sailing, and you saw another publisher with a 14% profit on a single publication, you wouldn't say that to that person, we're not going to give you a mortgage because you've spent it on a yacht in Marbella. And I said, so what right have you to tell us what we spend our dividend on? And I think that's lived with us always. And I think one of the contradictions that we have within the Big Issue, the whole of the Big Issue group, and I'm sure this is reflected in other people, is that people are so passionate and believe in the mission that sometimes we forget that our survival and our sustainability is about actually, making profit, making surplus, in order to that long-term sustainability. And it's always that contradiction between mission and business, and that's a contradiction of social enterprise. And I don't think it's a contradiction that can ever be solved. I think you have to live with that some contradiction, and I think it's quite hard for the leadership, I think, sometimes to get the contradiction over, and how you do that internally and externally. You know, externally is telling people we're not charity, we're business, and internally is finding those contradictions of staff who join us because they want to do, they want to work in the mission and the social lens that we're all working in. The other thing about Lucy's blog, which I loved, was about the myth of the social entrepreneur, and I love that, because it's funny. And again, I was talking about this before I read the blog last week, because you know what we used to call it was just business. You know, what do we do? I'm a business person, right? You don't have to be a social entrepreneur. Actually, there's so many of, you know, of social enterprises are run by good people that understand how to run and grow a business. And so I absolutely know that, you know, particularly the big issue, we do have some, you know, loud figures, whether it be John or as my friend Tim West called me, I'm the silent one, and if you can believe that. But I think that all of us recognise that the most important people, you can come up with every single idea, but the most important people for me are those people that can put one foot in the ideas, and not be frightened of ideas, and the other foot in execution. And I can remember my first deputy, Sarah Forster, every time I had an idea, she'd say, no, no. Then maybe half hour later, she said, but it's not bad, you know. And I learned something, I think, when I tell people, just because you have an idea doesn't mean to say you have to do it. And I think that exploration of creativity in business and execution is so important. And I think that myth of the entrepreneur, I think you can call people dreamers and ideas people, but I really like it is about everybody. It's about the 140 odd people in the big issue group that make this happen. And I think that is so important. And I think it's a reflection of social enterprise. And it's interesting because I think also that provides contradictions in sometimes, because staff feel they own the mission, because they believe in it so much. And then you have that contradiction saying, well, it's a business, and I'm going back to that contradiction. And therefore, some things we have to do are not what we'd want to do, but it's about that sustainability and getting through that fact that actually to create that kind of the sustainability, then it's always a contradiction. So is that enough, Lucy?
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Nigel. And some
very short for me, isn't it?
Yeah, you've kept to time, so I'm very impressed. It must be my new chairing skills.
Yes, yes. No, I'm in awe of them. You know, I wouldn't dare.
Keep you in line, yes. So that was great, and really some really good thoughts there, Nigel, about, you know, what you've seen over your time at the big issue and setting up the big issue. And you know, you've been in this for such a long time. You know, that I do remember there was, you know, some very on in the social enterprise Mark's journey, you giving us some very sage advice about keeping focused when the times got tough, and that's always stuck with me. So experience is a great thing, and longevity obviously is something that we need to see in social enterprises. So I'm going to talk a little bit more now about just a bit about the background of us, really, and why we've gone for developing the social enterprise silver mark. So the social enterprise mark itself was founded in 2010 because social enterprises wanted to prove their ethical business credentials to customers, partners, and the wider world. And they also wanted to differentiate their business model. And that led to our strapline, trading for people and planet, which we've seen quite a lot since then, in various different guises. And it was about being driven by that people and planet, rather than for private profit of shareholders and the financial bottom line alone. Our accreditation independently proves this through our assessment process, backed up by our certification panels, and we've got some of our certification panel with us today, so you can quiz them on that along with our assessors. Our founding year was 2010, which was a pivotal moment. At that time, we were in the foothills of a number of multiple crises. We didn't realise it at the time, but starting with the credit crunch, for those of you that remember it, bank crashes, corporate scandals, and more recently, obviously, we've had the extreme challenges for those in need brought about by the pandemic, wars, and political upheaval. So I'd say we now live in an era of unprecedented multiple crises, which has taken its toll. And I was having a look at some of the work that our friends over at Oxfam have done recently, because they report on some of these statistics every year. And they have said that since 2020, the world's richest 1% have captured almost 2/3 of new global wealth, which is almost twice as much money as the bottom 99% of the world's population. And I find that statistic quite staggering, and it just seems to get worse every year. And the poorest are experiencing extreme polarization and the worst ravages of the effects of climate change. This situation is beginning to turn the tide of mainstream business in the political world, but it seems creakingly and extremely slow. There's acknowledgement that business needs to do more to tackle inequality, with the growth of things like economic, social, and governance reporting, otherwise known as ESG, as part of the way that the businesses are responding. But on the other hand, you get these huge diversions, and the reality of it for, you know, I get frustrated. Business just carries on. For instance, wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few billionaires who increased their wealth by an estimated $2.7 billion a day. So we do need something more radical. And I think that social enterprise, and I've always said this, is part of that. Social enterprises have their social mission at their core, and it runs through the veins of their business. It's not just a bolt-on. In order to address the world's problems, we need more good, well-run social enterprises. It's not enough to do a bit of good on the side as an afterthought, nor is it good enough to just have the right legal structure and cause, although this, of course, helps. We need social enterprises with longevity and resilience, as Nigel said, and an ability to adapt to the challenges that society and nature presents. So this is why, one of the reasons why we've developed the Silver Mark, following consultation with our mark holders and using our excellence criteria. We've developed a new product that helps social enterprises not only prove that they're making a difference through the process of assessment, but also to highlight and celebrate areas that might not have been highlighted before, as well as giving a steer on potential improvements for better strategic social enterprise and impact outcomes. The Social Enterprise Silver Mark represents the next stage in the social enterprise mark journey to excellence through providing independent proof, a supportive, tailored process, and recommendations for achieving our highest level of excellence. For those of you that are aware, the Social Enterprise Gold Mark. using the same robust criteria and assessment methodology, but with lower evidence thresholds and capacity requirements from the applicant. And we listened to our mark holders when they were saying, actually, this is quite a challenge. So I hope we got the balance right. Today, we'd like to celebrate and thank the 3 pioneer social enterprises that have come a long way on this journey to the launch and to reach silver. They are Care Opinion, that are based in Sheffield, Selby Trust, based in North London, and for those of you that didn't understand the Arsenal reference, they're based on White Hart Lane, so you can imagine you can imagine the implication for Arsenal supporters, and also Lendology, based in Somerset. They all have been long-time supporters of the social enterprise mark accreditation and truly believe in the need to demonstrate best practice. And with our support, they have submitted to the assessment process in absolute record time. All credit to them. For those of them that were off on holidays. And I think it goes back to what Nigel says, it's a team effort. It's not just about individuals. It was teams that rose to the challenge to achieve that goal. And it's really great to have them with us today. So without further ado, I would like to go over to our individual silver mark holders. The first people that I'm going to ask to speak are Care Opinion. So can you unmute Miriam and Ross, Amber?
Hello, yes, I'm Ross, and my Chief Operating Officer, Miriam, should be somewhere. I can't see her on the gallery because she's disappeared from the view.
Ross, yes, she's there.
Okay. Miriam, would you like to go first and then I'll come in after?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lucy. And the panel, it's good to see everybody here celebrating the SC Silver Mark. And I was really excited to read about the Silver Mark because we, being members of, you know, and being a mark holder since 2012, Lucy reminds me, crikey. And we were just, it was exciting to know that at the time it felt important to have this accreditation, to not just call ourselves a social enterprise, but actually wear kind of the band on your arm and go through a kind of rigorous accreditation process by an independent body. So that was over and above, and also because that was important for us to be able to demonstrate that through and show that, hey, not just to externally in contracts and those kind of things, that obviously is also a huge benefit of the mark, but also internally, and the pride that our team also feel in being members and obviously reaching this higher accreditation. So it's for us, I mean, in terms of the process, Ross will talk about that, but for us, it's also important that all the different areas, not just sort of in terms of the business areas, but also from a corporate finance, governance, how do we do employee communications? How do we look after our teams, stakeholder engagement? So all of those areas really we had to look at more rigorously with Nikki, who was incredibly helpful and encouraging, as well as the rest of the team, but also look at the areas that we wanted to continue to improve in. And the Silver Mark gives us, it felt like a big jump both in time and in cost for us to some degree, to jump to the gold mark, but this gave us an opportunity to continue to demonstrate that how we doing business, improving and refining our practice across all the different areas. So it's yes, incredibly important for us, and I feel quite proud, and it's great to be at the start of the Silver Mark too. So I would encourage anyone that is considering taking the next step to go for it, and you'll get lots of support from the SMART team. Ross, do you want to talk about the process?
Yes,
It would be good.
Is there anything else? Sorry.
Yeah, just to say what you do, if everyone could, just so that everyone knows a little bit about your social enterprise as well, Miriam.
Sure, of course. So we were founded in 2005. Caribbean now came in as the first employee of the organisation. We make it kind of safe and simple to share stories online of health and care. And then obviously see other people's stories too, but then be able to see how those stories are leading to learning and change. So we connecting very much with, and we're kind of a fine line in between. We're not advocating either for the patients and service users nor services themselves, but we can enable online conversations between both.
That's brilliant. Thanks. And over to Ross now.
Yes, so when Miriam said we're going to go for the silver mark and it's got to be done within about 3 weeks, my heart did sink, but it was fine. And the reason why it was fine is we had initially been part of the pilot process, which was, I believe, pre-pandemic, about 2019, maybe 20. So a lot of core work had been done. I formed a small team. We have actually got 22 staff, but I decided to second an extra couple in to help, and we effectively divvied up the various sections for areas that I felt people would be best suited for doing. And the challenge for us was that even though we've been around since 2005, and whilst we do informally publish details of our impact, the one area which I felt we might struggle to prove competency on was our social impact. We have actually committed to doing our first ever published impact report later in the year. But that was the one section where I thought, oh, we could have a problem here. But the process was, once you attack it, it's straightforward. And we did have great support from Nikki. I made the joke in our initial meeting that we would become best friends for about 2 or 3 weeks. And so it proved, but we had lots of help and support. When we submitted our first draft of the form, I could tell it was being reviewed because we were getting comments coming back on what we might need to tweak and improve on. But it 2 or 3 revisions, and the process was completed. So we did complete it in the time. If you are, I suppose, run into true social enterprise values, it's actually not that difficult to attain the mark. Everything's very clear, it's well explained, and you will get great support from the people assessing you to ensure that you pass the criteria. Or if you don't pass, they will tell you exactly what you will need to do to pass it. So I would say don't be afraid, attack it and go for it. And I'd be happy to take any specific questions, but that's it really.
That's great, Ross. We're going to zip over to Purva and Paul because they're at the locality conference. So they'll be a part of locality. So they need to go in a little while. So if you guys could just give, and also remember to tell everybody what you do. I know Nigel's already given you a bit of an opening there.
Yeah, I can go first of all. Thank you, Lucy. And Selby Trust, we are based in Haringey, Tottenham in London, and we are a community centre. We have been there for more than 20 years now. And at the moment, we are undergoing a major redevelopment, which is upcoming soon, Selby Urban Village. We received levelling up funding for that of 20 million for phase 1, where we will have a new community centre developed with sports facilities for the community. So we are very much looking forward to it with the existing challenges that we have and going through all the existing opportunities that we had to make sure we can serve for our community. Looking for the future opportunities and activities, this transition period have been quite challenging, and I must say with Nikki having our assessor. It was really great to have her support throughout the assessment, because she was able to understand our positioning. It is a unique kind of services and activities that we provide. Some of the services and activities we directly provide to our community, but most of them are provided by our licensees. We have 32 in-house organizations. Most of them are charity and social enterprises working for the community in different health and well-being services. So it's quite a different dynamic that we were at, and it was really great that Nikki was able to understand and provide us with specific areas, particularly in some questions or some places. She was able to tell exactly what we need to demonstrate, and the report that we got from her clearly illustrate that we are doing good. So that's positive, but there are some areas of improvement going forward, and it has been really an amazing journey. Thank you so much, Paul.
Yeah, I'll just say very gently.
We're having a slight problem with your sound, Paul.
Oh, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Right, okay. I'm not sure, unlike Ross, that I'm best friends with Nikki. I think what an external process does is I think you can actually get quite complacent. So we've been so immersed in the redevelopment, so immersed in our transformational plans, that I think having an external person come in and take a real good look at what you're doing is quite important. And it's happened at quite a pivotal moment, because we're about to submit our planning application with the council in February. So it's full on at the moment. And I think what it's taught me is that the distraction of the physical development sometimes loses sight of some of the important governance and service issues that continue to be important, and they're important because they are about serving community. And at the end of the day, the organisation has served its community without the redevelopment today, and it's worth it's actually made us as a team think about that point. Actually, is that forget about the bricks and mortar, but actually services and the way we deliver our services and the way that we relate to communities is actually quite important. There were 2 points in Nikki's report. One of them are really important around governance and our future governance structure, which has exercised us for quite some time. But having that focus as part of the report helps us to shine the light on that issue with our board. So really pleased that we've been part of this process. I think external validation is really quite important. That external critique of our organisations and what we're doing is also important. So I'm pleased to have been part of the pilot, and sorry we've got to rush off.
Thanks very much, Paul and Poover. That was, really, really useful. And you're right, so right. You can get so enmeshed with the day-to-day issues of, running the show, keeping everything balanced in terms of finance, and obviously being a locality member, physical assets are a really important aspect of it, but it's good to remember why you have those physical assets, and it's to serve the local communities and to support the local communities. So they're very wise words there. And enjoy the rest of the locality conference. I'll be interested to hear what's been going on and the reports that are coming out from that. So I'll have a look on Twitter or LinkedIn, as apparently LinkedIn is now the new Twitter. So I was hearing now Twitter's gone a bit peculiar. So yeah, lovely to have you both, and well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Right, and now, last but by no means least, Lendology. Emma's with us. Obviously, a more local one to us. We're based down in the southwest as well, so it's really nice to have a southwest-based organisation getting the silver mark. And obviously, they've been doing such great work, and I'm sure Emma will tell you a bit about, you know, kind of how they've worked with, you know, some very deprived communities in the southwest. Thank you, Emma.
Thanks, Lucy. And it's fantastic to hear the other mark winners, and I also understand your pain around the assessment process, because I think I had a call with Lucy and we said yes. I'm sort of the chief exec, and I said yes, we'll do it. And then I had to sort of slink back into the office and say to the team, I've just committed us to do this. And by the way, we got about 2.5 weeks to get the information sorted. So, and then I ran out the office because I didn't, but it was quite a sprint. And I think without Gareth's support, we had Gareth as our sort of person who helped us through the process. And I think what worked really well for us, it was that initial conversation that we had with Gareth, and the I'm here if you need me, and let's see how we get on. So Lendology is a social enterprise based in Somerset. We operate on behalf of around about 20 councils, lending council funds to homeowners who can't access mainstream finance. And the great thing about Lendology is that everybody pays the same interest rate. So regardless of their age or their income or any of those issues, everybody pays the same. And it stops that penalty on people who have very little of having to pay more just because they earn less or they have less. And it's just abhorrent as far as I'm concerned. So this is why I'm driven to do what we do. It's about equalising that fair finance for people and giving people the opportunity to live in safe, warm, secure homes. And I think much like the other team members, we've gone through an extended period of growth where the team's gone from sort of 10 team members, we're up to 17 team members. And it's really easy as you expand to forget to do stuff, to forget to update a policy or forget to do this. And for me, this silver mark was that opportunity to have that external real audit on us as an organisation and to pull up the carpet and see what was under there and just check out there wasn't anything hidden that we hadn't quite done or anything that we needed to do. And we worked really closely with Gareth. I think we did we spent a good few days as a team. There were 3 of us working through answering the questions. We sent that back to Gareth, who looked at it very quickly for us because we knew we were on tight timescales. He gave us some feedback on other bits of data that he needed. And it was a very iterative process rather than a, you know, please say, have I passed or failed kind of thing. It was a real supportive process. So I'm really delighted that we've been able to achieve this mark. I think, as the other speakers have said, it is that extra level of quality that says we have been audited, we are doing what we say we do, and it gives that team that extra level of pride that goes, I'm all about continuous improvement, and it is about that recognition that yes, we're a silver mark holder now, and who knows when we might become a gold mark holder in the future. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm really, really pleased to be a part of the initial crew that were put through. So thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Gareth.
Well done to everybody. Thank you very much, Emma. And it was a real challenge, I think, with the timescales over the summer. But I have to emphasise that, you know, for future silver mark holders, the process won't be quite as frenetic. You know, obviously we'd got the launch in mind, so we had the challenge there of getting people through the launch in a very short period of time. And as I said at the beginning, all credit to all 3 organisations over August, mainly the main holiday period. So it really was a team effort. But I think, you know, the important thing is that although it is a robust process, it does require, you know, thinking, and it requires input and dialogue with the assessors. It can be at your own pace. And, you know, moving forwards, if you feel that, you know, it's something that you are interested in going for, we can guide you on that and how best to handle that capacity issue. And certainly that's the case with our gold mark holders and with all of our products. It's guided by you, you know, and we try to make the process relevant to the size of organization as well. So for a bigger organization, we wouldn't require as much evidence as for a smaller organization. So we do try and respond to you know, the type of social enterprise, and also to the pressures of those social enterprises, because, you know, we all go through peaks and troughs with our workload. We have some social enterprises, for instance, working in out of hours health, you know, and I'm sure that Miriam found the same thing over the period of COVID. It was absolutely manic, you know, and there are various times in winter, for example, when it gets busier. So we always try and respond to those you know, those outside pressures and inside pressures that are experienced as a social enterprise. And it's a really important aspect, really, of why we're a social enterprise as well, because we can empathize, we understand. We're not a, you know, arm's length assessment organization. We try and live and breathe the values and come under similar pressures to you all as well. So that's a really great summary, and thank you very much to all of our silver mark holders, and to Nigel for introducing there. I'm now going to hand over to our business development manager, Kerry, who will talk to you about, you know, kind of what the next steps are, and open it up for questions with our assessor, Paul. So over to you, Kerry.
Thank you, Lucy. Good morning, everyone. Great to see everyone. It's been a fantastic call. I just want to say congratulations again to our pioneering and amazing new silver mark holders, Lindology, the Selby Trust and Care Opinion, for just jumping right in and doing such a great job to get accredited silver mark holders. I'm Kerry, and as Lucy said, I'm Business Development Manager. And I'd love to connect with any of you who have questions about the silver mark, about the process of becoming accredited in general for any of our marks, but in particular for this mark, and how we can benefit your organization. We've talked quite a bit about that on this call, but I'm here to answer any more questions you may have. I am going to share in the chat after I'm done speaking my email address, and also our register your interest form, and you can choose either or both ways to contact me. And then what I'll do is I will set up a chat with you just to understand a bit more about what your organization does, your goals, tell you again more about the process of accreditation and how we can support you. We love to partner with our organizations, and we love talking about the social enterprise mark as well, at least I do. And I'll walk you through the accreditation process and then help you get started on that journey. And hopefully from there, we can progress along that pathway to excellence, as Lucy mentioned earlier. So that's me. I look forward to talking to some of you soon. I'm now going to hand over to Paul, who is going to sort of be the chair of our Q&A session. Paul, over to you.
Thank you, Kerry-Ann. And thank you, all the speakers this morning. It's been fascinating to hear your stories. So good morning, everybody. I'm Paul Tarrant. I'm Director of Accreditation and Training for SEMSIC. So my responsibility really has been the technical side of this. So worked closely with our assessors and with the team to develop the silver mark. So we already had the gold mark framework. The framework for the silver mark is identical, and that's been sent by some of the other contributors this morning. Lucy particularly, it's probably less burdensome. Usually for the gold mark assessment, we'd be looking at something like 5 days of assessment time, whereas the silver mark generally with the iterative process comes down to about 1.5. Although probably the applicants going through that would have put significantly more into it than we did on the assessment side. So I'm going to look at the Q&A side, but firstly, it's my pleasure to introduce the two assessors. They've been mentioned by name. So Nikki Stevenson and Gareth Hart have joined us on the call this morning. So Nikki consults on social enterprise matters, and she was instrumental in developing our gold mark assessment some number of years ago. Nikki's also the co-author of a book called Inside Social Enterprise, if you want to look at that. So she's well versed in all things social enterprise. She's also been our gold mark assessor for a number of years now. Gareth is co-founder and director of a business called Iridescent Ideas, also CIC. So Gareth, as well as assessing, actually lives and breathes social enterprise. He works regularly with organisations and supporting them on matters social enterprise. And a bit like Nikki's also involved in various articles for publications. So what I'd like to do now is the three of us are on the open for questions. I'm not quite sure how we'd like to take this. I mean, if we can unmute, you're welcome to ask them verbally, or if you want to put something in the chat, if you prefer to do that, then Amber is on the call. We'll probably have a look at those for us too. So anybody want to launch the first question, and we'll see how we can answer that one. Anything coming up in the chat, Amber?
No, not yet. Oh, here you go. Here's one. Oh, there's one in the chat. Can you read that one, Paul?
Okay, I think it's from Karen. Karen Crees, she's on the call. Hi, Karen. Good morning to you. I think what's top of mind is how much time it takes to go through the process. I think that's probably best answered by the assessors, I guess. Nikki, do you want to take this one, and also probably reflective from the organisations, because obviously depending on their size, there's a factor there. I mean, should we explore that one, Nikki?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a how long is a piece of string question. When it depends if you've got the information readily available is the first thing. So we asked to see copies of policies and practices, and we asked for reports of social impact and so on. So it kind of depends what you already have and how easily you can access it, and how long it takes you to put that into a form that sorry, somebody at my door, it's helpful. So if you've got somebody, and you've heard from the people who've spoken so far, who is dedicated to producing the application, then, and they have the time to do it, I think it can be quicker. So we heard from Care Opinion that Paul was tasked with doing it, and he pulled together Ross was tasked with, I'm looking at Ross's picture as I say Paul, I don't know why I did that. So he was tasked with, he had a group of people ready to work on it. And with Selby Trust, I put in the chat earlier on, every time Perva did anything, it was on a Sunday. So you could see that she didn't have that dedicated time to do it, because they were doing so many other things about their development. I think if you put the hours together end to end, it would, with all the iterations in the kind of responding to comments and things. Broadly speaking, it would be about 3 days of somebody's work. It's not masses, but it's fiddly, I think. So there need to be gaps between when you do things, and then you have to go and revise things and come back to them. But it's fiddly rather than really, really time consuming, I would say.
Yeah, I think for my part, I think where the time can be spent is the iterative nature of the process. I mean, the fundamental thing really is that there's an application, there's a self-assessment questionnaire to fill in, which is quite comprehensive. There is a lot of guidance information on there, but nevertheless, when you fill in any kind of questionnaire, you find that different things fit in different boxes, and you can end up, filling in pretty much the same things, whereas actually the questions, when you read into them, they are actually quite nuanced, aren't they, Nikki? And so often that the case is that you go back to the applicant and then ask for that. So there's a couple of other things that have come up in the chat here. I think Nigel's asked what's the advantage and cost of the various marks. I think cost-wise, I think Kerry Ann can answer that. I mean, advantages. If I can just take the advantages for now, and then we can pick up perhaps the costing side of it later with you, Kerry. So the social enterprise mark really looks at the first criteria. So we call that criteria A to F. So generally, you would expect that social enterprises could meet the standard criteria. So have a formally defined social and/or environmental objective. Dedicate at least 51% profit to an organisation, be able to demonstrate it's an independent business, earn at least 50% of its annual income from trading, and commit the principal proportion of 51% plus of annual profit to the social purpose of the organisation, have an asset lock on dissolution so that any residual assets from the business would be distributed for similar purposes, and be able to demonstrate that social and environmental objects are being achieved, so the social impact. So that's the core social enterprise mark. So generally for organisations who are actually operating as a social enterprise, that's relatively straightforward to go for, and is often demonstrated by the articles of association or the financial side and the independence, if you like, of the organisation. Moving up the stage, then the silver mark, we add some criteria. So we add looking in detail at robust governance, effective stakeholder engagement, ethical and good business practice, financial transparency, and the reporting of social impact. So in that case, it's quite more challenging. So the advantages of doing that, really, of going through that mark, is it's the next rung up on the ladder of proving your social impact. Gareth, did you want to come in on that at all in terms of the advantages maybe of the various marks?
I was just going to add to that. I mean, I think you've explained that process really clearly, but I think the way I've always seen, I should also add that as my business Iridescent, we've had the mark since 2011, so we're a standard mark holder, and I'm looking at doing the silver mark myself, actually. Or having I couldn't assess myself. Let's get Nikki to do it. I think the interesting thing for me has always been the standard mark always feels like it's a really great thing to have, but most of the questions are pretty much yes, no. Do you have this in your constitution? Do you have an asset log? There's no sense of sort of quality in those statements. It's just yes or no, you do these things, except the very last criteria about social impact. There's a sort of element of quality there. But the silver and gold mark absolutely go into much more about the quality of your organization. So I see the advantages of the silver mark as very much more, it's a badge of quality. It's getting, and if we can all collectively work together to get that really well known, hopefully commissioners, funders, partners will start to recognize that as a badge of quality, like this, that there are other quality marks out there. But that's what I think the extra advantage and the depth we go into in things like the governance and the stakeholder engagement, it's just a little bit more of the quality, and you've got to prove it. You've got to be able to get, I mean, Emma and I had some conversations, and we had to ask for information, go back and forth. Look, can you send us a bit more on this? Can you send us a bit more on that? Can you say a bit more about this? And yeah, I mean, and at the end, we provided by Fred Emma a report saying, yeah, it looks great. You've qualified for the silver mark. Here are some suggestions for further improvement. You know, if you want to go on the journey to help out. But absolutely, that sense of quality is what stands out for me as an advantage for the silver mark.
That's really great. Thanks. I'll just move on to the next question. So
just quickly, Paul,
yeah.
I just wanted to say in general about costs. I mean, it's all available on the website, but I'm happy to have a one-to-one chat with you about your specific organization, because it all is based on, it depends on where you are, your income, etc. So feel free to use my email and we can talk more directly about costs, but it's all also transparent on the website depending on the mark. So hopefully that's helpful.
So, it looks like Emma wants to just input, Paul.
Yes, okay.
Thanks. I was just going to say, for me, one of the reasons why we did it was that independent, positive audit process as well. So if you've got trustees or boards that aren't necessarily as diligent as they might be, that you would like a bit more pressing, you would like to know that you as the leader are doing as good a job as you can. It's a really wonderful way of having somebody with a positive nature coming and looking at all of your business and going, there's some areas where you could work on. And I found that really, really valuable. So that was another reason why I felt we should do it. So that for me was the big business reason. Thank you.
That's great, Emma. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So we've got a question from Kay. Are we able to see the criteria set of questions ahead of deciding if we want to go ahead? Absolutely. There's a document that we can provide, which is called the Social Enterprise Silver Mark Framework and Assessment Guide for Applicants. So it's kind of a high-level document. But when we've gotten into conversation, you can go through the criteria, and then if that advances, if you like, we can actually provide you with the assessment form as well, so you can see the content of that. Yes, quite happily. In terms of differ to bronze, we don't have a bronze assessment as such. As Gareth explained, we've got the silver social enterprise mark, and then the silver, and then the gold. So we don't have a bronze as such. Will there be a question from Alison? Will there be any changes to the existing social enterprise mark with the introduction of the silver mark alongside the existing gold mark? No, is the answer, because the framework is the same. What we wanted to ensure is that what we did was we looked at the gold mark, and then we've taken that back, if you like, to the silver mark. So the criteria is the same. So anybody going from silver to gold will see the same criteria, but we'll have to provide more evidence, if you like, more robust evidence, particularly on the social impact side of things. One of the main differences on that as well is that we would ask for a survey to be done of the organisation's people and its stakeholders, which is not a requirement of the silver mark. At the silver, we ask how the organisations engage with their stakeholders, but we don't actually prescribe that they have to do a survey at that stage. So no, there won't be any changes. The social enterprise mark will remain as kind of a met, not met, with some qualitative look at the social impact side. So yeah, you can be sure that things will remain the same, and there will be this pathway of progression between all the marks. Just moving on, I think that Marialpha, I'm very new in entrepreneurship concept, but I always think how I can ensure the long-term sustainability of my project. I think, was that a comment, Marialpha, rather than a question? Possibly. Are there any others that I've missed? So cost we picked up with Kerry Ann. Amber, can you see any more questions that I might have missed?
That's it. I wonder if just going back to the question about I just remember Gareth saying, or someone commenting that actually through the mark holder, when they're going through the accreditation process, they do review the business. So I think, in answer to Marianne, it would help with the long-term sustainability of your enterprise, just because it's kind of, I think, was it you, Emma, talking about it, saying it's a review of everything you do and giving feedback. So yeah, so I just think, in answer to that, I think maybe that's what Marianne was referring to.
Okay, that's helpful. Yes, I can appreciate now. I sort of reflect on the question that, being new into social enterprise, the social enterprise mark, obviously, depending on how the organisation is founded, if you like, through its articles and the way it's governed, is kind of the first step. There's still some progression in that mark in terms of demonstrating your social impact and continuing to develop it, to develop it over successive years, obviously, rather than plateau. But hopefully then now the silver mark would give you somewhere to go, if you like. That's why we're hopefully promoting it to all those of our mark holders who currently have the social enterprise mark, who are probably thinking, would this help with our continuous improvement and the reflection on our business?
Thank you, Paul. We actually reached 11 o'clock, so I just want to bring formal proceedings to the end. I see that Nikki's got her hand up. If people want to hang around afterwards, is it a quick point, Nikki?
I mean, I just wanted to mention, Paul slightly used the words there, without we do finish the assessment process with a continuous improvement meeting. Once you've had your report, we then talk it through with you, so that it is very much about helping to improve and develop your business based on the findings of the assessment process. So it's an iterative process. It's a developmental process.
And it's 3 years, every 3 years. So and there's bits in between, where we work together. So anyway, you are welcome to stay on afterwards if you have other specific questions. We'll be mingling, as you would at the end of an event, for another half an hour or so. So if you want to hang around, by all means. But thanks and well done again to our 3 silver mark holders. All your stuff is sent to you, so now you can celebrate, and we'll be talking about it ad infinitum, I'm sure. But it's been a really great morning, and thank you everybody for coming along, and have a good rest of your day.